protest. All right. Shalom, family, peace. As you can see, I'm still getting myself together, but let's go ahead and dive right in. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it is in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message, Aman. Shabbat Shalom. My Shabbat Christ, my Shalom. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Let's see if we can set you up a little better. You can be. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe we can stand up for today. Why not? I just got to be very careful with the setup here. As you can see, I want to make sure I don't have any accidents and lose equipment in the water. That would be horrendous. It'd be hilarious for a hot second, and then it would be horrendous and realizing I'm having all that stuff. But we'll see what we can do. And no wind, praise ya. So you should be all right. Let's see what we can do. Y'all can look at the environment some. I try to raise my voice as best as I can. I'm still suffering a little bit. I lost my voice, and it still hasn't really recovered. But it's recovered enough to where you guys should be able to hear me. So if you guys have problems hearing me or whatever, let me know. Also, too, since I'll be doing a little bit of fishing, so-called fishing. I guess we'll see if I catch anything. I'm gonna be making noise while fishing, so we'll see how that works out. But prayerfully, we'll get a bite. I saw a couple fish jumping, even though they were really, really small, like almost guppy around the tree line. So we'll see what's going on, but prayerfully, we'll have some fun regardless. Fishing ain't always about how many you catch. Sometimes it's just about relaxing. So y'all saw me relaxing with Solomon yesterday. We'll probably have him come out later, trying to decide what kind of bait I should use out this piece. Should I go artificial? Should I go natural? Should I go what we tried yesterday? Seems like we had a little bit of nibbles last night. There were a bunch of alligators around yesterday too. But anyways, we're on business, SOC business, trying to make sure that we go and visit some family, make sure everybody's doing all right. So prayerfully, everything's going to be well with them. This Saturday, Shabbat, pretty much regularly scheduled programming. So we're going to do this. We'll do our live session as we always do. After the live session is over at 10 a.m. New York time, we'll go ahead and get ready to go into the podcast. Elder Anais has a word for us. After that, at 11 a.m. New York time, we'll have Shabbat school for the babies. Shabbat Shalom once again to everybody for using Saturday as your Shabbat, or Friday into Saturday. Then at 7 p.m. London time, we'll try to get back on track with our conversation for you guys. At 7 p.m. New York time, we'll have our conversation for the men, our men's meeting. And then at 8 p.m. New York time, I'm gonna try to swing back around and do a special live session just for you all, especially since we missed all day. Yes, well, we kind of didn't miss all day. I came on late in the evening, but we really kind of missed stuff yesterday. So we'll see how all that goes. Oh, goodness. What's going on? I think I messed up. I used the fishing pole to snatch through some of the, oh, I see what's going on. We got some bubble. We got some stuff from the water got stuck on here overnight. Now it's all sticky. Oh, I might have to cut me a whole new line, y'all. Hopefully not. Okay, looks like I got it. Sorry, by the way. Meant to have all this stuff done and out the way a lot earlier, but it is what it is. But hopefully you guys are doing well. I apologize if I don't see everything on there, especially since I'm going to be casting and doing some stuff and looking out here. But want to make sure we have some conversation. I thought, to be honest with you, that we were going to be going back into our By the Shot series, and we will be, because we're not finished. We're still in the midst of By the Shots Lamed Hey, which is Genesis chapter 35. But for today, we're actually going to spend some time talking about these protests. We're going to spend some time talking about these protests and some things that I'm seeing, that I'm hearing, and somewhat, I don't always use this terminology, but let's just keep it a buck, somewhat goofy behavior, right? And this is why we have to make sure the kingdom is always our standard and not man, because there's some really goofy behavior going on when people talk about these protests and should you, shouldn't you, what makes you black, what makes you this, what makes you that. That's why nationality is always more important than color, even though we don't mind talking about color on here, especially when it talks about who we are in our initial state, our original state, etc. That being said, nationality is important because some of y'all are getting confused on some of these issues. And you know we don't mind talking about them. Now, prayerfully, these devices I'm using, they're in the sun. So prayerfully, we'll be able to make it about an hour and a half or so before they give out on us. But I'm directly in the sun. I don't have any shade for today. So it is what it is. If I feel like it's getting a little too warm, maybe I'll run back and get an umbrella or something to try and come back and put it over this from time to time. But we're going to talk about these protests. Come on. So if you'd like to go ahead, say your Bible pledge with me real quick, if you're able to stand to your feet or reverence Yahweh's word, however you are able. Let's go ahead and get into this. This is my Bible. This is my sword. And this will I trust. For Yahushua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yah's word. Hashem Yehavach. Amen. Which is Yehavah Shem. His name is authority. Amen. Let it be done unto us. Alrighty. So, we're going to go ahead and get started. You may be seated to go back to what you're doing in the presence of the Most High Yah. We're going to have some conversation about these protests. So, when you're dealing with these protests, and you're dealing with all this stuff the persons are talking about, first things first, beloved, we have to ask ourselves some questions, right? We have to ask ourselves some questions, right? Real talk. We have to have a real conversation, all right? When it comes to these protests, first things first, we have to first lay down the line, because I was listening to somebody who I listen to. I don't even agree with a lot of stuff he says, but I can admit he's somebody that's very knowledgeable about a lot of different things. He usually comes from a very Greco-Roman psychological thought process and not one that is native to our people. That being said, though, I will admit that at least he's a big name. Also something like FT Signifier on YouTube, if you've heard of somebody like Lil Bill, not Lil Bill, that's like, even though I think he calls himself Lil Bill because he's bald-headed, like the Lil Bill from the Cosby, Lil Bill that was on Nickelodeon back in the day. But he called himself Lil Bill or whatever. And by the way, once again, I apologize if I don't catch everybody right away. Shalom to you. I'm probably going to miss names today because of my setup today, but it is not my intention to skip over you. So if I miss you, please forgive me. I'll try my best to get back to you ASAP. How you doing, Cole, Jennifer, Diana, Sister Monica, Diana, Samuel, everybody. If I miss you, please forgive me. Once again, I'm not going to be doing too much scrolling today, but how you doing, Tania? And sorry about my voice once again. How you doing, Dennis? King James. If I'm being honest with my setup and even the sun in my eyes and stuff, I'm gonna miss a lot of stuff in the comments today. So please forgive me. Right. Have I caught anything? Not today. Not as of yet. That was my first cast that I put in the water just now, and it's not even my best cast. Went okay, but as I'm talking, I'm also making a bunch of noise. And this is my second time, if you count last night, in the middle of the night, just getting here, barely getting acclimated to stuff. This is my first So I'm within my first 24 hours of even fishing in Tampa, or not Tampa, in Tallahassee. So it is what it is. But thank you all for being on. Thank you for the love. Thank you for any donations, by the way, even if they be money, time, talent, effort, energy, whatever it is. I want to say I appreciate some of you too. Um, you guys have been answered prayer. I'll just say that in the least, because I was thinking to myself, as far as personal finance, I might have overextended myself on some of the stuff to make sure, and you guys, it's like some of you knew automatically. So I thank you all and appreciate you. Some of you knew just because you love me like a brother, and I'd already done some stuff, that I didn't. Oh, uh-oh. Okay. So we got something biting. Some of the bait is gone. So let's try this again. Same thing that happened last night, so I got to figure out I'm doing something wrong with my hook. But anyways, I wanted to get into the discussion of the protesting. And a lot of big names are trying to make us feel guilty either way, right? A lot of persons are shaming you into protesting, or they're shaming you into not protesting. They're reminding you, hey, didn't we tell you what was going to happen with Kamala and you didn't listen? And, or it's the other side, you ain't black enough. And some of the people who were busy saying you weren't black enough or you hated women if you didn't vote for Kamala. Now the persons who are saying you're terrible, some of them are the persons saying you're terrible persons, because how could you let somebody around you get jacked up and beat up by the government and not do anything? Just because they didn't vote the way that you voted doesn't mean that you shouldn't help them out. And this is why we have to get into truth, contextual facts that reveal truth, right? We got to kind of get back into the truth of things. We've been listening to a lot of fabrication and and we believe in, obviously today you're listening to somebody online, but I'm just saying we believe online rhetoric more so than having a standard for our community. We should take a standard for us online rather than trying to find our best way to figure out online what the standard is, if that makes sense, right? A lot of persons are trying their best to figure out what to do online rather than having a standard that they bring with them online. Understand. I know we even overstand, but we have never, a lot of us have never understood. By the way, if you don't know the difference, to understand, when you have a flag, you have something called a standard, right? So when you have something called a standard, right? When you have something called a standard, what happens is this. You have a standard, and when you have a standard, what happens is that your standard is what you're under. A standard is a flag, right? So your flag that you stand under is the standard, right? No ifs, and buts. That's what that word is talking about. If you go under a flag and you've ever done this, ever done this, then that's basically saying that you are under a standard. When you pledge allegiance to the flag, you pledge allegiance to the standard of who? Of the United States of America, which now is really just the United States Corporation, and to the republic. So even if you're looking at it as a republic, it's not a democracy, it's a republic, right? A republic is a kingdom. And to the kingdom for which it stands, right, or even stands upon or stands under, understand? One nation. They're saying you make yourself a nation. It's an artificial nation, but one nation under God, not under Elohim, but under God, indivisible. They say that you can't, once you're in this, we don't look at you different than anybody else, supposedly, but we know that's not true, right? You got to know the law with what? With liberty. Liberty doesn't mean freedom. Liberty means what you're allowed to do. And justice for what? For all, right? And by the way, if it was a great, because that wasn't even the initial or original Pledge of Allegiance. But if you want to make it an actual just straight up Pledge of Allegiance, all it has to say is, right, if we want to talk about freedom and justice, equality, all it has to say is, you pledge allegiance to liberty and justice for all. But that's not what it says, right? If it was just, we pledge allegiance to liberty and justice for all, it would say we pledge allegiance. But no, there's a bunch of stuff in between, correct? I forget the white brother. I forget the brother's name that actually initially mentioned that. So forgive me, but he's very great brother, very great dude, very solid dude in the truth and in the way. Well, not in the way, but he's truthful. He's not. I don't know if that's his belief system. Let me not put that on him. I don't think it is. But I say all that to say that these protests that you're falling for and that you're going into, and you're doing all this stuff for these protests, real talk, are they're not. You're protesting something that's not for you, and you shouldn't feel guilted into it. You shouldn't feel guilted out of it. We have free will. What we have suggested as a group is that we try to stay away from them for safety reasons. Number one, to be honest, but then number two, if you can put all this effort into the protest, put all this effort into SOC, put all this effort into Israel, put all this effort into your family, and it's not a thing of, oh, so you're going to watch somebody else, you're going to watch other families, or you're going to watch other human beings be messed with or whatever. That's not what I'm on. And persons try to guilt you into some stuff, See, that's what they on. That's what they talking about. See, there go those Hebrew Israelites. There go those Afrocentric brothers. Oh, they're just the little 5%ers. And see, up here comes NOI. They're trying to tell you. And see, they're telling the same thing. Don't listen to anybody who shares the view of your oppressor, right? And I don't care if it's FD Signifier. I don't care if it's Lil Bill. I don't care if it's John Stewart. I don't care if in certain ways it's Stephen A. Smith. But I want you to see, there's a lot of persons who still are doing Balaam doctrine. And anybody who's into Balaam doctrine, we used to just say that they were coons. I can't use that word too much or I'll get in trouble. But that's what we used to say. It didn't used to be Stephen A. Smith. It used to be Stephen, and still is, for real. It's Stephen K. Smith. Because he's not for you. But it's not just him. All these politicians, persons can't wait to talk about Maxine Waters. Didn't Maxine Waters, now, granted, I don't pay attention to that stuff as much as possible, so if she was exonerated, so be it. But wasn't she somebody that got caught taking hundreds of thousands of dollars and giving it to her family? Right? Now we got the new young black girl sensation. Is basically nothing more than a modern Maxine Waters. President Barack Obama came in, and he was supposed to change everything. He said, yes, we can, but never told you what you could, and never showed you what you could. And so now here you are still waiting for what you can, right? But you haven't, you haven't seen what it is that you can. We haven't thought about that. We haven't thought about, that we really were messed up. Can I tell you something that really, knowledge-wise, it blessed me. It's not a blessing to our community or diaspora or anything, but I just want to share something with you. The problem with Obama is that black folk in general, when it came to Kamala, with black folk, what we did was we celebrated for 2 years, for 2 terms, basically really 6.5 years, because the end of Obama's presidency was really bad, especially towards black folk, and persons finally started to get it, right? But for 6.5 years, basically it was a celebration. And it was just a celebration because it was like, oh, we got a president who can two-step, because he could do this, right? We were like, oh, he looking sharp. He had nice suits on. And it was a party. And then you had Jay-Z coming up in there, and he was in the White House, and Beyonce was in the White House, and all these different things. So, we just said, oh, okay, it's a party. And that's what we did for 2 years, was we partied. We really didn't do anything as far as the will of Yah. We didn't do anything to make sure that we got things corrected. We didn't do anything to ensure that we were doing what, we were serving the purpose of making sure that our community was getting better. We basically just partied for a couple years. That's what we did, right? And so in our partying for a couple years, we didn't think about the damage that was being done. Nobody cared. And statistics show, right? When you go back and you look at a lot of those things, statistics will tell you that we partied. We didn't make sure that we checked on policy. We didn't check Obama. If he said anything, we forgot he's a president. We said because he was a black, this is what we did as a diaspora. If I say we, if you don't have to take credit for it, I'm just saying as a diaspora, right? Because we're a family at the end of the day. And I'm addressing us as family today. As family, even the Negro, even the Hebrew Israelite, a lot of persons were out here doing their hardest to just party because we had a black president. A lot of persons only voted for him, whether black or white, by the way. A lot of persons will admit this to you now, that a lot of persons voted for him because he was black. And there was some kind of weird thing where it was like if we vote a black man in, even though he wasn't the first black person to be voted president. We know this, not just before George Washington, but even after. Abraham Lincoln, Melungeon, right? Dwight Eisenhower, at least 1/4 black. And if we go by the standard, which is the one drop rule, that means 1/4 is black enough, right? So we know we got at least, he's the third president. And if that's only if you go by George Washington, there's others that persons would say beforehand, and definitely, would say even after. But those are more guesses than us being able to say, with truth. We can say with truth, those three for sure are black. But we had this thing that went like, because he's black, we'll ignore all the other things. So when he was out here legit, literally, when he was out here legit, literally, doing stuff that we knew was jacked up, right? Like he had, and this is not something I'm trying to say to try and sound like I'm pro-Trump, not on the right or the left. Just being honest with you. We ignored a lot of the stuff that he did that we know is terrible, just because he was black. We let it go. We acted like it didn't matter. We ignored what he was doing to persons that were from other countries. We ignored what he was doing to Mexicans. We ignored what he was doing in the Caribbean. We ignored what was happening in Haiti. You think that what happened in Haiti just started now? What happened in Haiti is something that's more Clinton-based. And so Clinton, think about Hillary Clinton. She was what, Secretary of State, right? She's Secretary of State. What do you think she's doing as Secretary of State to Haiti? And what do you think those corporations are getting from Obama? Gaddafi, that's right. Gaddafi was under his watch, right? And as much, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that these are perfect persons, but some of the things that they put on Gaddafi, they're trying to put out there too, to make you be like, we shouldn't help somebody who's trying to make sure that Africa is coming together united, right? But we won't even give that but we were told, and so the protests are kind of something that same thing. You're getting duped, and persons are trying their best to make you feel guilty, and now it's like, oh, so the black community, they're not going to try to help just because Latinos were against you in the vote. How terrible is that? Number one, never let anybody make you feel bad about taking care of your own home. Can we just put that out there? I don't know why I said I'm losing my voice. I ain't bring no water. But anyways, right? But can we put that out there? Can we put that out there? Like you should never feel bad about taking care of your house. Matter of fact, a lot of our homes are in disarray because we're so great at taking care of others' homes that now our homes have become in disarray. We should never feel guilty about saying my son will eat and he should eat properly even if your son's not eating. Now, if I have extra and I don't give to your son, extra meaning, hey, if I don't have stuff in line, because this is what the Bible says. Proverbs 13:22 doesn't just say the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just. That's the first half. That's the second half of the verse. The first half of the verse says you have to be able, or at least have the mindset of taking care of your children's children. Therefore, if you don't have a mindset to take care of your grandchildren, or at least for me, I think your great-grandchildren, because if my great-grandchildren are taken care of, then that means that everybody else will be taken care of if I do it properly, right? Because I want my great-grandchildren to be taken care of, which means that my grandchildren have to be in a position to take care of them, which means my children should be in a position to take care of them, which means I must be in a position to take care of them. But that being said, if you have a mindset to take care of your children's children, then the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just. You know why? Because even the wicked have the mindset to take care of their children, right? And somehow, some way, we think that it's wrong, or we've been taught over time that it's a bad thing for us to take care of our children. Yes, we have. We've been taught, we have, that it's wrong for us to think about us first. You've been taught that it's wrong to put a black-owned sign on the side of your building. You've been taught that it's wrong to say, if I'm a Negro, I should figure out what that is. You've been taught that it's wrong to say that if Israel is not in position, then nobody is. You said you're not planning to have children? Okay, well, hopefully you do something that's going to last and help community and help your family or help your wife or help whomever, right? Because we can't take any of those things with us anyway, so we might as well make sure that God's will is done in earth as it is in heaven. So when we go to heaven, his will still got to be done, right? And his will is for us to come together as a nation. But what I'm saying is ultimately, my mindset it really is that persons are trying their best to get you to believe that it's wrong to take care of your children. This is why persons have us feel guilty about making sure our children are homeschooled. Because in order to have your child homeschooled, it means that you have to separate them from a system. Salah. Right? It's very true, beloved. right? In order to have them homeschooled, they have to be separated from the system that is regular school. Now, here's the wild thing, is that skull, I won't even get into that, but do some research, school, or even if I have a school of fish, what are they supposed to do? They stay together to survive, but they're not really learning much outside of that school or that skull, right? But I'm just saying, there's a reason they have a problem with homeschool, and one of the reasons why they try to get you to work your 9 to 5 and then another 9 to 5. I used to work 2.5 gigs, I get it, and then still, be assistant pastor at church and all that stuff. I get it. That used to be me, for sure. I understand what it is to put your time in and to put pro and to make sure that you're doing things so you can get in that position. So I'm not saying you shouldn't work hard, right? A man, right, who can't take care of his family is less than an infidel, right? I get that. That's our goal. It's not always feasible to do it the way that we'd like to do every single time. But a man who doesn't take care of his family is less than an infidel. So I say all that. Excuse me. Pray for my voice. Right? I say all that to say, oh wow, that's an interesting bird. I'm sorry, I've never seen that bird before. All right. I say all that to say that it's all right for you to take care of home. It's the first position you should have, right? So when somebody says, well, why would you tell persons to protest or not protest? First of all, why would you not protest? I'm not denying anybody their right. Everybody has free will. I'm asking you, what is your protest for and what is it to gain? And somebody says, well, if you don't protest, if you don't get out there, how do you stop them from taking habeas corpus? They've taken habeas corpus from us in the 90s. I want you to see this, right? These are arguments that you're going to hear, that you're going to see. You're going to see it today when you go and you scroll through. And by the way, feel free to study the other side. See if what I'm saying is a lie. But when they talk about habeas corpus, if you don't know about that, just look it up. It's your rights, big time, right? But Bill Clinton took that away when they called us super predators, right? Same Hillary Clinton, they called us super predators. Same Hillary Clinton that worked for Obama. It's the same system. It's the same family. These are all cousins. At the most, 10th cousins. And because we don't know how important, making sure that stuff is kept in house, even to the 10th cousins, even to a certain amount of generations, we don't think about the fact that Scripture mentions terms like this lawfully, legally, because there's something that happens within that yao, within that 10. So a lot of these presidents have to be president within the same family, and they have to be at least 10th cousins, right? So Bush is cousins with Obama, right? You don't think about that. Obama is cousins with the Bidens. Right, the Biden family are cousins with the Reagans. Joe Biden, he's the protege of one of the most racist men to ever be in Congress. Right? Yeah, that's a wild name to be referred to, but it's the truth, right? That's what they call us. Not just predator. Right? We don't like predators. We don't like the name predator. Right? Even one person said you'd be a worthy competitor if I was really a predator. Those who get that reference, we can be friends. We can be friends anyways, I'm just saying. Right? But some of y'all get the reference, right? But we don't like to be called predators. But they didn't just call us predators. No, that wasn't enough. They went with super predator. And you've got to realize that goes back to, what is that? Forgive me, y'all. That goes back to, Birth of a Nation. I'm not talking about the new movie. I'm talking about the original movie. What is it, the 1920s, 30s, something back then? If you're not aware, the original Birth of a Nation was a movie in which they were making it a point to tell you why you should be afraid of not just black people, but black men. 1915, so even further back. Thank you for that correction, right? The goal of the movie, when you watch it, it's one of the crazy. Matter of fact, we should probably do a watch party. We have to do this on Clapper for sure, because TikTok, rightfully so, would take us down, right? So we might have to do that on Clapper. That might be the next watch party. The children can't come to that one, by the way. Matter of fact, let's just make that official. We're going to do it today, next Saturday, right? Should we do it? No, you know what? Yeah. Those who want to see it can see it. Those who don't want to see it don't have to, right? But we'll do it next Saturday. Somebody hold me accountable. We'll do it next Saturday. Let's say 12:30, 12:30 p.m. Some of you've never seen the original. Now I'm gonna have to look hard for it, or just find a bunch of pieces of it. But we'll find it and we'll watch it. Give me some time because it's actually difficult to get the original anymore. But thank you, Sister Mignon. So give us some time, or Sister Renee, if you're watching or whatever, please, if you can hold me accountable to send me a message maybe on tomorrow or something. Or maybe it's all right, tomorrow Sunday, on Monday or something, just as a reminder. Okay. I'm gonna use a different kind of bait. So we got some smart fish coming up here, probably some big fish as well. They're nibbling off the bait. This is the second bait fish I done had taken on. That's one thing I'm learning, is that fish are way smarter than what you think. I do have some chum. Maybe I should try and throw some chum in the water. I'll see how that works. We'll try and throw some chum in the water and then get the retracted to come over to the chum. And then we'll try some artificial bait. This works pretty well for bass. If you ever seen these before. I don't know how many of you seen this before or not. But they're artificial fish, but from far away, they start looking like fish, especially when they're in the water. They start wagging them back and forth. We'll see if we can throw some chum in the water. See if they respond to that. And then I'll cast out again, because there's somebody out there, he or she is smart. They're eating the bait fish. I'm using some fish. They got some that look like they still are, I got some bait fish. Maybe I'm not. I probably should put it in the head and do it again, but I'm gonna try first. Let's throw out some, I don't know if I might still be back at the RV. I thought I had brought the chum. Maybe not. But anyway, where was I at? I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sitting up here talking about all this stuff. Isn't that's what y'all came here for? Oh yeah, the chum. So, got it. So anyway, Birth of a Nation, 1915. It's crucial. A lot of persons don't know that literally that's something that a lot of cats don't know about, and they don't recognize and realize why a lot of movies were made. This is the first big movie, by the way, like as far as like, going into movies, like this is one of the biggest movies. If we were to like address inflation issues, if we were to address like, how many persons were coming and how many persons existed in the United States of America at that time and now exist. Persons don't realize that Birth of a Nation movie was so popular and powerful that the sitting president at the time allowed it to be played in the White House. And not only that, he allowed it to be played in the White House. There's also the rumor that basically the president himself is the only president to have been sworn into the KKK while being president. Right? That's a big rumor. It seems like there's a lot of truth to it, but I cannot, in excellent conscience, if you will, I cannot pretend that that's actually what happened, because we don't know for sure. So I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. We don't know for sure that that's what happened. Come on, just wanna make sure that you understand. We don't know for sure, but it seems to be that we know that this president was part of the KKK. It seems like he let this movie be played in the White House, and there is a possibility, a strong possibility, right? This is if I was playing, what is it? If I was playing spades, I would say that that's a strong possible. I would say I would get that one if you let me play it. Right? So it's a strong possible, right? We got like 5 and a possible. This is a great hand that we got here, and it's a very strong possibility that this president was actually put into the KKK allegedly. Right? Como está mi hermana? Gracias por tu presencia. Right? So a strong possibility that happened. Just putting it out there like that. Strong possibility. So anyway, that being said, we have, forgive me 1 second. Okay, Kofi. Anyway, so we got a strong possibility that actually took place. But either way, we know Birth of a Nation was played in the White House. And when you go watch that movie, you will discover that it was made specifically to make sure that black people were on the bottom, white people were on top, and that black men were scary figures. Matter of fact, that was one of the things that you had to do was to make white people at ease with our scorn. Psalm 122. And I apologize, so-called white people. I know white, there's no such person really known as white. We're talking about social constructs, right? That are manifested into actual constructs, correct? That's what we're talking about. So I'm not coming here talking bad about you, about this and that, just because you white. I'm trying to give you a mindset, a thing, a thought process, all right? So just roll with me, okay? So, but they did this because the mindset was to make sure that white was always better than black, and that hide your women from black men because they might try to take their chastity. And so one of the things that you did was to make persons at ease around black persons, which you had to make black persons always feel like they were dumb. This is where you get stuff like your, what would we call it? Your minstrel shows, blackface. That's always designed. A lot of persons don't know this. The first blackface was not worn by white people. Even blackface is appropriated, believe it or not. Black actors were not going to get the same kind of, they were not going to get the same kind of opportunities as white actors. So since black actors wouldn't, one thing that they could do, that they would do amongst themselves, we would do amongst ourselves, was we would take time out and actually put blackface on because it would make us laugh. Because basically, our blackness was a joke, and then it was an in-house joke, we're funny to them because we're black. Now look at us, we're double black. And so when you had like the Step and Fetchiks of the world and stuff like that, and the Bojangles, and to a lesser degree, but to a certain degree, even a Sammy Davis Jr., who was a devil worshiper, part of something called the Rat Pack, that was always the outsider. If you want to keep on going, we can keep on going with it. But this is why you have, and I love some of these songs. I'm being honest with you, even though you should be careful about what some of them mean. I love some of these songs, but let's be honest. Even when you look at the Earth, Wind, and Fire, why were they dressed like that? Now people just go, oh no, because they were into the pyramids and they lived that life, and a lot of them were vegetarians or vegans before anybody even knew what a vegan was. But they had to also be effeminate. Look at the bass player. You're supposed to be effeminate because you don't get into certain places if you're not. That's why you had the slick hair. If you didn't have slick hair, not only was it that you didn't look white enough, you weren't acceptable because you weren't supposed to have coarse hair and have white women howling for you, right? Or even your own women, for that matter, right? So our own women didn't like you if you didn't have your hair laid. Like nowadays, our sisters lay their edges. You see that? Like it's the same type of stuff. So, or if you want to keep going, look at Prince and Michael Jackson. We love their music, but let's not pretend Prince wasn't in high heels. Let's not pretend that Prince wasn't out there literally. And I apologize for the language if it's too much for some of you. Let's not forget Prince wasn't literally out there showing his ass. Right? Like he literally had a whole outfit set up so that he could turn around and you could see all his bunda out in the fresh air. People be talking about don't sag your pants, but he would come out and talk about we shouldn't sag our pants. But it's like, dude, you got tight pants, even when he was Jehovah's Witness, supposedly saved. Deuteronomy 28 curses too, yes. But I'm just saying we don't recognize that's how the stuff goes. You're not even supposed, if you're not effeminate, you're not supposed to get out there. And any man who bucks against that, even some of the men that buck against it, Cat Williams, still very effeminate. If we keep it a buck. I love Ali Sadiq. Listen to Ali Sadiq and watch him for a little bit. You'll see very effeminate. There's certain things that you have to do. Will Smith out here now all of a sudden trying to act like it's okay to curse, blah, blah, this and that. Look at his career, very effeminate. And women are trained, our women even specifically are trained to love those things. But what I'm trying to say, what does this have to do with the protest? What I'm trying to say is that everything that's centered is still centered around you being at the bottom. And if persons don't support your protest, I don't think it's wrong for you to say, I'm not supporting yours. That being said, we don't even teach that you should protest because the protest is not your issue. The lack of land is your issue. The lack of gold is your issue. The lack of sovereignty is your issue. The lack of unity is your issue. You know what's interesting? Can I give you all the truth? Once again, we want to give you contextual facts that reveal truth, right? That's what Dr. Neely Fuller Jr. would tell us. So let's give some contextual facts, some facts that reveal truth. You ready? We don't like stuff that reveals truth, but it is what it is. Let's be honest. Let's have honest dialogue today. Persons are busy talking about the protests and this, that, or whatever. The reason why we don't worry about protest, like what? Okay, thank you, Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit gave it to me correctly, right? All right, let's look at it like this. Let's look at it like this. You ready, family? Honest dialogue. When I was in the DMV around 2020 and all the protests or whatever, guess who I didn't see out marching for George Floyd? Persons who lived in Chinatown in DC. You didn't see a bunch of stuff posted all over the place. You didn't see. You might have seen black folk out there trying to get persons on there, but you didn't see. That wasn't their thing. They weren't worried about it, right? But I'm not here to tell you that they did that because they're racist. Because I want to give you another truth. You guys remember there was a Stop Asian Hate bill somewhat recently, right? Even though you still haven't gotten yours, right? That's my second thing of charm. We're going to put this artificial one in there next. Hopefully that works, right? But, okay. Right? You guys recall that, right? I'm not making that up. Y'all recall there was the Stop Asian Hate bill? Okay, guess what? In the DMV in Chinatown, guess who you didn't see marching around talking about Stop Asian Hate? Even though you did. Guess who didn't do it? A lot of Asian persons in Chinatown. You marched while they were like, that's not even our fight. Because why would they fight that when they already own? I'm not saying no Asians march. Hear what I'm saying? The persons who had power weren't worried about marching. Why? Because that's not how they get stuff done. You help them get stuff done. And as far as the pecking order, as far as the, if you know about not just only 1859 wrote the book on evolution, Charles Darwin, but even Charles Darwin, the guy before him, that he comes out of his school, who actually made up the 4 races, which is why you guys usually only break stuff down into 4. You usually say black, white, Asian, Spanish. Or some of you go black, white, Asian, native. Somehow the native has been replaced by the Spanish, but that's what it used to originally be. But when you look at that, you'll discover that basically like the Asians didn't care about a bill. If they own a bunch of stuff in Chinatown, they tell DC what to do. It doesn't just say Chinatown. Like you can tell clearly. Like if you go to the sports stadium, you'll see Chinese characters. If you go to see the Wizards of the Capitals play, if you go to the McDonald's over there, you got to see Chinese characters. If you go to the Starbucks over there, you have to see Chinese characters. If you go to the, I think it's still there, the Five Guys, you got to see Chinese characters. I don't know if they still have the Fuddruckers. If they do, you have to see Chinese characters. All that stuff over there, right? They're going to see Chinese characters. You're going to see Chinese characters, things that are there of their culture. You're going to see the food is made specifically in certain ways that they want them to be made. You're going to see that all the corner stores are going to be there. You're going to see that there's prices that they give their people and that they give everybody else. That's the way it works. Not because that they're bad, but because they take care of their community. Their community comes first. If somebody wants to buy something in a Chinese area, you might have to pay 4 or 5 times more than what some Chinese person would. And you guys are mad at that because you go, oh, well, if you were coming into our community, we would have made you do it. No. If they come into your community and they say, I will give up being black, so to speak, and I'll become Chinese, that's different. If somebody comes into your community and says, I'm no longer Chinese, I would like to be able to be considered part of what you guys are doing, and I will do whatever you say, and I'll sign contracts and stuff, guess what? That's what we're supposed to do within each other. If you don't believe this is why the Bible says Israel should be with Israel. Nationality. Ruth says, your people are my people, your Elohim is my Elohim. I'm no longer a Moabite, right? If you want your family to be rescued, doesn't matter if you're a prostitute or not. If you'll help the man of Yah, and you want your family to be rescued, praise Yah, and thank you for all the help that you gave us, then guess what we're going to require of these? You're going to have to become one of us. Period. All right, we just had our second thing of chum. Should have dissipated, so hopefully, if I can toss it in the right area, hopefully we should get some bites. We'll see. This is why fishing is a lot of fun. It's also one of the most patient things you have to be, boy. Because you got some days where you're just going to be embarrassed. I done came on here live last night and today, and I'm probably not going to catch one fish. It's okay. All right, it is fun. It is relaxing, though. feel like I'm doing something, but I do need to get some stuff. I like to see if we can save money on some food, more so than anything else. Right? But I'm trying to get you guys to catch that it's okay to take care of your household. Other persons do all the time. Right? Other communities have no problem making sure that they take care of their home. And you should have no problem taking care of your home. So during the Stop Asian Hate bill, right? Even if you just go by numbers, if we just be honest numbers wise, how many Asian persons can actually be out there, right, on the march? Not many. You took those numbers and you made up those numbers. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What happened? Sorry, y'all. Give me a second. But we made up those numbers. Right? I'm not saying we made them up as far as we imagined them or put out fake. No. I'm saying physically, it's impossible that, there were enough persons to march for a Stop Asian Hate bill. Everybody else had to march on their behalf. Right? But while you were marching, many persons who have power, including Asians that were in China, making sure that some of the stuff was happening, they were sitting back and chilling out, letting you do what you want to do for yourself. Thank you, Brother Lamar. I see you. All right? And we're supposed to pray for leadership in our community as well. Yeah, we're supposed to follow. We're supposed to protect. Here's something that persons don't want to hear. Do you guys know that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., for many of the stuff that we give him credit for, and he took a lot of stuff, do you know that a lot of times when he marched or he walked around, he had a piece on him? As what's my man would say, as clips, Pusha T, as Pusha T would say, Virginia native, as Pusha would say, or no, not Pusha, Malice, or No Malice now, No Malice. No Malice said, he always walks around with his peace, like he Mahatma, right? A lot of persons don't know MLK walked around with a peace and had to be convinced to not carry it at times or at least not use it. Because he comprehended, he understood that he was going into a situation to where persons wanted him. They tried to mess him up. Yeah, we know what's going on with Ibrahim and Burkina Faso and all that too, right? But I'm just saying, a lot of us don't recognize. Uh-oh. Hold up, man. Oh, no, never mind. But a lot of us don't recognize what's actually happening. We don't recognize what's actually going on. We don't see it. We don't think about it. We don't reference it. We don't look at the connection. We don't know about the marching deacons, the deacons who were with MLK. And when MLK went somewhere, we don't recognize. Oh, they're following. Something's following. Oh, something has a hold of it. It won't commit. Yeah, it won't commit. Darn it. I thought I was about to pull something out. Something like that, though. Throw it back where the chum was. Anyway, oh, no, what did I just do? Uh-oh. I need to just one day cut this off. I'll be trying to hold on to these things as long as possible. This thing twists every time. But anyways, where was I at? But yeah, people don't know MLK. He had that thing on him, right? And when he didn't show up with it, he probably wouldn't have been able to prevent the shot that came because it didn't even come. Have you guys ever read the book? By the way, have you guys ever studied the case in the book written by the lawyer of MLK's family? If you haven't, not only is it a great read just because it's well written, it's a great read because it's part of our story and part of his story. And if you want to know the truth about what was going on with MLK, you should probably read the book written. I can't remember his lawyer's name, the family lawyer's name, but he wrote a book. A lot of persons don't know that MLK's family won a case. They proved that the state killed MLK, and even during the case gave a name of they had two snipers. One sniper was with the, what do you call that, the SWAT team or something. And the other sniper was, so one sniper was with the SWAT team. The other sniper was, what's the other word I'm looking for? One sniper was with the SWAT. The other sniper was somewhere. What was that? My gracious. Oh, I think that the other one worked for the FBI, or might even, or I think he worked for the Green Berets or something like that. I think it was a Green Beret. So that's how committed they were to taking the life. That if the person with the SWAT missed the shot, they were like, military, we got y'all ready. So the federal government, or the artificial government, right, whichever one you want to give them, was in on it and was helping. And just like the CIA, more than likely are the ones who shot Malcolm. There's some persons that will tell you that when Malcolm is shot, all the bullet wounds come from this direction. So if the persons were shooting up at him at stage, then why are none of the bullets coming from here? And we know that the CIA actually the day before had gone out with the help of NOI, and they had made sure that they had set up, the week before, and they had bought the whole top floor to make sure that they were over where Malcolm would be speaking. So more than likely what happened is Malcolm was shot down on. I say all this to say that when all that happens, there were some persons, even to the point to where we tore up. I don't think we should tear places up either. So I'm not here to defend that. Those who are doing that, be careful with that. That's breaking common law, right? That's breaking the law of Yah. We're not supposed to hurt. We're not supposed to murder, right? We're not supposed to kill. There are certain things that are for Yah. If we have to protect ourselves, that's one thing. But we're not supposed to just be out there looking to loot or do anything like that. I'm not saying it's a huge percentage. I don't know what the percentage is. I'm just letting you know. Obviously, that's happening. Please don't do that. Right? Please, ma'am, please, sir. Do not do that. Right? Please be careful about that. Because we know that there are some persons, unfortunately, that are doing that. And that's when they get to give us a bad name, and that's when they get to come in your communities too, which we don't think about until it's too late. And they get to say, see, we told you these, look at these N-words. Look at these N-word lovers. This is what they do. Right? So be careful about a lot of that and some of the stuff. Be careful about the fact that they're trying to have you and I come together, and they're trying to do some of the same stuff they did do with the George Floyd stuff. We're not going to pretend that didn't happen either, where they would have you in places where they would put you, we're in very compromised positions. And then once you were in a compromised position, they would literally take, they would literally put you in positions where you were stuck. And then what would they do? They would throw, they would take like bricks and other things, right? And they would set up a whole bunch of bricks, and then you're in the corner, and you're between literally a rock and a hard place or a brick and a hard place. Now they threw on cinder blocks, acting like it's not the same as bricks, and acting like you're not going to. So be careful about these protests. First of all, I want you to know what you're protesting, but secondly, I want you to know a lot of this stuff is set up, and a lot of this is set up for you to be divided, right? At the end of the day, watch this. How is it that you are rolling? I just want you to catch this, because some persons think what I speak is division, right? I'm trying to give you some fundamental truth, right? So roll with me just a bit. I done messed up my whole line, man. Okay, just roll with me for just a bit, if you would. Okay. What is the difference between the so-called African American and the so-called Latino? Why are persons trying to make you feel guilty about saying that there's another way to get things done? And why are they trying to get you to make you think that you are xenophobic because you won't march for a Latino cause and won't understand that the Latinos, even if they didn't help the black cause, shouldn't do so? Why is that being done to you? It's being done to separate you. I'm trying to help somebody. Somebody still thinks that what I say sounds like xenophobia, and I get it because somebody taught us that it is. But it's not xenophobic for somebody to say that, as much as you don't want to hear this, the Haitian is the same as the Dominican. So if the Haitian is black, then the Dominican is black. That's right. The division is language, and even when you get there, that's why we need to learn our language properly, because Latin, right, is not our language, right? It's not. Male versus male hating on female, and males and females being against each other is not our original tongue or language concerning marriage or how we operate as a community. It's not. You have to realize that's a learned behavior. And who taught it to you? Uh-oh. Did you teach it to yourself? Or did somebody teach it to you? And what was the purpose of them teaching it to you? Was it so that you would be a great nation? Or was it that you would be subjected to them as property? Remember, the three-fifths compromise does not mean you were three-fifths of a human being. The three-fifths compromise is that the South is supposed to pay three-fifths of the taxes for property. So they paid three-fifths of the taxes on property, including you, because you were not considered to be a human. You were considered to be an artificial person, right? Or if you are a human, you are a monster. So rather than make you a human, they made you property. And some of you are still doing your best to remain property and are caping up for a system that says you are nothing more than property. All women listening to me right now, black, white, or whatever, you should realize that you are considered by this so-called nation, United States Corporation, which is a corporation, 28 U.S.C. 300215 subsection A tells you are in a corporation. All women listening to me, whether you're my sister or not, and I'm not just talking about whether you're black or not, I'm talking about whether you're my sister or not, hear me. You are considered to be what? You are considered to be property. That's why a lot of these men are taught to treat you as such. I'm not saying you should be considered to be property. I'm saying that's what you are considered to be, period. So when you keep talking about all this stuff and how things should be and dating and all this stuff like that, you don't realize that comes from a culture in which they say women are property. Period. You can be mad at it, or you can realize it and say, well, what should you do? See, when you have a thing where you're sitting up there talking about feminism and don't even realize the difference between that and womanism, or even think to yourself, is feminism, what does that culturally mean? Why are you fighting in feminism, right? Because even in that, they don't want to tell the truth. Feminism is not a fight for all women. Feminism is a fight for the women who traditionally, I didn't say you automatically, but hear what I'm saying, traditionally, in the country that you decide that you want to still be a part of, right? And still say that you're a citizen of, and still back up and still voting and all this stuff. You have to realize in that country, so-called country, that you are a tool. You are a tool for war. Yes, you are. Whether you like my saying it or not, I gotta tell you the truth. You are a tool used for war. Right? You are a tool used for war. That's how they're trying to use you. Right? What do I mean by that? Why do you think that they beat the little boy to a pulp and have his face to a place where you can't even see what it is? Because he supposedly, even though we know this wasn't true, but he supposedly whistled. I can't even whistle that well, but basically said, I can't whistle, but he said, hey, baby, or something along those lines. And they went and they beat this boy down, even though really what happened was they just beat the boy down, and all they had to do to be able to get through everything in court was just say, you know how these black heathens are that we've seen in these movies like Birth of a Nation. You know how they be. You know that they're terrible. You know that they're trying to get our women. You know how they are. That's all they had to do. They didn't have to work that hard at it. They didn't have to come up with the whole thing. And they still don't have to today. Because once again, it's set up to where black people are supposed to be on the bottom, and it starts with black men. Right? But you're used you're used as a tool. You're weaponized. Your femininity, your feminist movement is even weaponized. A lot of you might not know this, but Gloria Steinem, who is considered to be like the mother of your movement, at least if you're in the United States of America, Gloria Steinem is a CIA operative. And I'm talking about she told you that herself. She's on wax, so to speak, saying it herself. So this is not just Pastor Kofi just coming up with something, or these black persons out here, they coming up with conspiracy. No, she's literally said she was a CIA operative, and we know that she actually, one of the things that she was told to do was she got a young black girl, right? Because this is part of, they want you at ease with your score. She got to a young teenage girl who at that time, whether you've been going out with ain't N-words, ain't S-N-words, or N-words that are all that, at the end of the day, you're dating, you 16. There's certain things you shouldn't be doing in relationships anyway, right? But she goes out in all these bad relationships and apparently has all the answers for black women. And she's supported by Gloria Steinem, who's supported by the CIA, and she writes a book to make sure that she starts putting the word out to black women that all men ain't nothing, especially black men, and that we shouldn't worry about it. Meanwhile, Gloria Steinem is married with a whole husband. If anybody's a traitor, that sounds like one to me. But we don't want to be honest and have honest dialogue, honest conversation concerning it. We don't, right? So all this protest stuff, I'm asking this: when the protest is over, and we make sure that, because ultimately I know the focus that they're trying to get you on is they're trying to get rid of Mexicans. They were doing that when Obama was in. They were doing that back when Bush was in, the second Bush. They were doing that when Clinton was in. They were doing that when the first Bush was in. They were doing that when Reagan was in. They were doing that when Carter was in. They're not doing anything new. Matter of fact, they were doing it when they stole Mexico from Mexico. Right? Somebody asked me a question the other day, right? Like, you got to realize how repetitive this is, that they know that they can hit the same notes because they have us stuck on the same racism, right? Uh, Look, somebody was like, well, what you think about that war going on in Iran and stuff? I was like, and I wasn't trying to be rude. I just didn't have time that day. I wasn't on it, like I didn't have it in me to say it with a smile and a stiff upper lip. So I just had to tell them what was in my heart, right? So I made the point to tell them, like, yo, uh, real talk, I don't really care because Iran and Israel fight every year. So I was like, what's going to be different this year? And then he just kind of looked at me like, oh, that's it? Like, yeah, that's it. And for me, it's that simple. Like, every year they fight, right? Like, every year they fight. And every year, some of my people think this is the year that we need to act like we're Iranian so that we can fight against the Jewish man or something. Every year they fight. We haven't gotten into any kind of relief from what they've been doing. Not yet, right? So I just was like, yeah, if they fight every year, it's like when people talk about this is going to be the year that they get rid of crypto. And in China, they try to get rid of, man, in China, they try to get rid of crypto every year. They say that, and then the Chinese companies literally buy up crypto. Why would they do that? That doesn't even make sense, Kofi. Yes, it does. If you're trying to make sure that everybody sells their shares, and then you make the price of crypto go down, right? And then you go ahead and buy the crypto up, and you're bullish on it when everybody else is all scurry about it. Right? That's real talk, real spill. If you're investing, you got to realize there's always a lot of persons that know what's coming up, and they're the persons that maneuver and make the stuff happen. Martha Stewart got arrested, but she got arrested for the stuff that everybody does all the time. You think that that was the first time somebody knew that something wasn't going to happen because they were going to be controlling the stock so they could tell you exactly what was going to happen? They went ahead and arrested her, right? Because a lot of y'all, they knew that she had a lot of haters and stuff anyway. So it was like, man, shoot, we'll just go ahead, arrest her. Everybody will be like, see, I knew it. And nobody will pay attention to the fact that she's really not going to go anywhere that's that hard to get through. And she's going to literally, she's going to be fine. She's going to come out. She's going to be rich. And then they connected her with all the stuff as a reward. Y'all don't think about this? They gave her a reward. Okay, Martha, we messed you up. We had to make a point. We had to make it to where all these people coming in, they're afraid. The persons who are new money, we don't want them doing the same thing that we as old money did. But now that we done finished up with that, Martha, go ahead. We'll hook you up with Snoop. We'll make you cool. We'll make it to where everybody is now saying, well, you're a B. You know, I hear a person say this all the time. You know, Martha's a B, but hey, you know, she's cool. We'll put you on roast on Comedy Central. Now everything should be straight. Right? These are like, this stuff is controlled so much and manipulated. I don't think persons realize that Yah, how much he wants you to be able to make sure that you are in his will and that you can have free will. You're going through stuff where persons are taking away your free will. They're taking away your ability to even look at whose will you're in. That's the will of the beast. Fighting even for a Latino, and I know somebody's gonna take this the wrong way, but prayerfully somebody cuts this up right and at least has my back later if they try to say that I'm out of pocket for what I'm saying. But hear what I'm saying. Fighting for even to be a Latino is something that you don't realize how off you are, because a Latino is native and black folk, and yes, some white blood in there too, but hear what I'm saying. It's mostly native and black folk that were taken, whether they were free, whether they were Africans that came over before, whether they were Olmec Sheep, whether they were Inca, whether they were so-called Tezcatlipoca or Texiclan. What is that? Sorry, so-called Aztecs. That's not what they actually were called, or what they called themselves. It was a place called Aztec, kind of, sort of, and somebody at Oxford basically just said everybody's called Aztecs now. But all these things that you're talking about, basically, you're all the same people. And if you ever realize that, and stop trying to be like, I'm a Mexican, I'm an American, I know, no papi, I know black, right? No papi, I know black, right? Right, whatever, right? Whatever, I know black. No papi, I know black, or whatever. If whatever your thing is, if you got out of that and just said, what are we as a nation? What is the nation? Right? If you realize that, like, persons are correct with some of the stuff that they're saying it the wrong way sometimes, but it's not incorrect to say, like, don't focus so much on the color. I get it, but you don't even focus on the nation. What is your nation? And by the way, there is a such thing as a nation called black. That's why you have a nation called Kemet. There is a such thing as a nation called black. That's why there's a nation called Kush. There is a such thing as a nation called black. That's why there's Ethiopia, Eritrea. There is a such thing as a nation called black. That's why there's Sudan, right? You don't know what these nations are called in their origin. There is a nation called Khalifa. That's where you get California from, right? Kham, which is where a lot of you say that Africa or Alkebulan has to be Kham, right? And we teach that to a certain degree to get persons to at least know what region people live in. Okay, cool. Well, Kham means hot, or he can handle the heat. Why? Because he's black enough to. And Na'ah, or Noah, who was an albino, had an issue to where his family didn't even love him as much as he should have been loved, including his father, Lamech, right? Who didn't really raise him, but it was actually his grandfather, Methuselah, who did. That's why he names his son proudly Ham, because he's proud that his son is dark enough to be able to handle the heat. And if you do your research, Shem and Ham, they look just about the same, right? That's why Noah is able to fit in the way he does. Hold on now. I might have to get rid of this. This buoy is terrible. It keeps slipping down to the fish. It's one of them things you just get when you buy the pole, when you buy a starter pole. Okay, it didn't do it this time. But yeah, so anyway, we have to realize and we have to think about this stuff. We have to be we have to realize what's going on and how they've gotten us to be so separate that now persons want you to believe that you should, if you march for anything, you should march as far as for Israel. Why are there no Israel marches? Or when there are Israelite marches, why do we go against them? Why do we say that that's bad? It's a lie. All right, why don't we march? Yeah, why don't we march for the kingdom? You know what? Here's a wild thing. Why is it that when we have kingdom meetups, we can't get anybody to come to those, but everybody can go to the stuff that's not for our nation. And I'm just saying, right? We'll find a way to put $400 in a gas tank to get to and from where we want to go so that we can celebrate somebody else. But we can't find a way to make sure that we give to our community. We'll find a way to make sure that other children can be fed, but we don't make sure we're even asked. I told you guys this before. We're gonna try even for our VBS and the schedule. I'm gonna have to have the schedule out after tonight because I still got to use the boot calendar invite for tonight. I'm gonna be back on this evening to make up for yesterday. So I'll be back on about 8 p.m. New York time this evening if you want to come out and support. Right. And by the way, this evening, I said this before too. I've been taking, somebody wants to have us on different platforms, on different live sessions. I show up on live sessions doing little so-called drive-bys or whatever real quick here and there. But if you want me to come on something or you want to invite me to something and you think somebody would have me, I need to be structured. Don't just have me or just be like, oh, we want you to come on and argue with somebody because that's disrespectful, not just to, even the topic or myself, but that's, even disrespectful to them. But that being said, if you would like, to have us on and us, talk through some things. But tomorrow, we'll open it up on TikTok, or tomorrow, tonight, this evening, we'll open it up for those of you, if you come on and you want to say something out loud, we'll try to have you on and make sure that your voice can be heard and everything. And, feel free if there's somebody who wants to come on and not even just argue, you just want to talk or you want to be on here. Now, I still have to make sure that I govern things properly or that we are governed properly. So if you come on and say some stuff that's not just disrespectful to SOC or to Israel or to myself or to Yah, but just disrespectful, period, or can mess up, our ability to be on live, I'll have to be careful about that. That being said, though, and we're not coming on just cussing each other out and stuff, but we can try to open it up tonight if anybody would like to, just simply come on TikTok and ask questions. I don't know if I'll be able to open phone lines today. I don't have a Bluetooth speaker or anything, so my other device I would even try to use. And I'm not even sure how much signal I have to do that either, but my Bluetooth speaker I normally would use has been out of commission for a minute, or at least hasn't been with me for a minute. I got to get that taken care of and get my Wi-Fi, my hotspot and all that taken care of. But anyway, but there's a reason why we're not focused on protesting. Right? There's a reason why we're not focused on protesting. Right? I'm gonna say it again. There's a reason why we're not protesting. First of all, I want to ask you something, right? Did y'all ever? I'm not saying, and look, somebody might say, well, protest didn't really exist. No, there's persons that come together, but when there is no protest in a kingdom, you never seen in the Bible that Yah said, right? I want y'all to protest. If persons protested, it meant they were against Yah or against His servant. So you have to know the word. If somebody's doing something wrong, you don't protest. You sit them down, or you come to them with the word, or you make sure you have a family discussion about it to make sure, hey, why aren't we understanding? You can ask questions, right? You can ask questions. You can say what's going on. You can say what verse did you get that from. You can challenge things for sure. Try every spirit to see if it is a balacham. But where have you seen a protest? If there was a protest, this is what happened. Hey, Miriam says, I'm a prophet too. I protest against Moses, leprosy. If there was a protest, hey, we're going to go ahead and say this is the netzer that led us out of the land of Kemet. What happens to them, right? If there was a protest, hey, we don't like your leadership style. Okay, well, you'll be swallowed up whole by the earth, or you'll be hit with poisonous snakes, right? If there was a protest, you're protesting against a king. If there's a protest against Yehoshaphat, right, the sun couldn't shine. If there was a protest, I will not let your people go. Yah stepped in. If there was a protest and we had to go to war, Yah told us to go to war, how to go to war, what to take and what not to take. In other words, in the kingdom, it don't operate the same as it does in democracy. So our protest, if you want to call it a protest, shouldn't even look like that. You said when they walked around Jericho 6 times, sure. What were they protesting? You see? I get you. I'm not coming against you, by the way. I'm just asking the question, right, to get us to think. So I hope you don't take. But even if you look at Jericho, that wasn't a protest. That was, that's yours. You're going to get it. Walk around it 6 times, 7 times, praise me, and I'll take care of the wall. Right? There wasn't a protest. These persons are evil. They're against the Most High. I hate them. Hate means I can't even look upon them. I have to ignore them, get rid of them. It's not a protest. that, that's not, that wasn't, hey, can you guys make things, excuse me, better for it? No, that was, I'm out. I'm out on y'all, right? When we talk about protests, we usually talk about things that are very, very, you know, it's very different, once again, because we're looking at democracy. Remember, democracy means how you govern persons. Democracy means a few people who live in a village give you a little bit of information and govern you with it. That's what democracy means. Democrata, democracy, right? Or what is a demo? They give you a demonstration. They say this little demonstration represents all. If you buy into the demonstration, we're going to use you to govern you. Well, what is the protest, right? In the kingdom, if you protest what somebody's doing, right? Even if you're in the land of somebody else's captivity, which we are. Jeremiah 29 says we're still supposed to do the same thing. Build homes and actually live in the homes we build. Raise children and actually have our children marry each other. You know, be in Yah's word, follow the law, follow the statutes, follow commandments. We pray for peace for the city, not just because it's the city. We pray for the peace for the city that we're in because we need peace, shalom, for ourselves. So we're not told to pray for the things that everybody does. We just pray for peace. We try our best to make sure that we are as give as much shalom as is possible. That's what we're told in the scripture. That's what we're actually taught in the word. Just to pray for as much peace as possible. That's our goal, is to have peace. But not peace because we're looking for leadership. You pray for the leadership, but you pray for your leadership. And I'm going to tell you something that's cray-cray. So-called cray-cray, right? But something that's crazy. It's amazing how much we pray for leadership of everybody else, but we don't pray for leadership of Israel. Or we don't pray for it's amazing how many bullets or how many bricks or how many rocks, how many dogs MLK had to take, and we prayed for the governor, but we didn't pray for MLK. Real time, because if you look back, you'll see some census and stuff out there, and when you take your time and look at that census or those census that existed at that time, you'll discover some very interesting things. You'll discover that persons didn't like MLK. The year before he died, 1967, persons hated MLK. Black persons said that he was asking for too much too soon. We just go white person, white. We were feeding into the narrative and supporting the narrative and teaching and preaching the narrative. He was asking for too much too soon. Then especially when he started getting to a place where he started saying, well, you know what? Maybe I brought my people into a burning house. All of a sudden, he sounded too much like Malcolm. He sounded too much like Elijah. He sounded too much like the Black Panthers. And he's off the same year that Fred Hampton is off. Meaning that they saw that there was a correlation between the two. See, persons forget, when Malcolm was taken out, you might not recall this or might not know this. When Malcolm was taken out, at the same time, there was a leader in Africa. You might not know this. You might not be aware. At the same time, there was a leader in Africa. Oh man, they are smart. They biting, but they will not get that hook. I gotta find another way to put that hook in. They're biting, but they will not take the hook. Anyway, I don't know. Somebody who's great at fishing, somebody who fishes way more than I do, which is a lot of y'all. Where should I put the hook? Should I put it in the head? I got it in the spine of the fish, but they're going around that hook like crazy. Is it because the hook is showing a little too much? I'll show you if I can. Now I don't want to cooperate with you. I'm trying to get it up here for you. Hold on. I told you I need to just cut this line too. That's part of the issue. Because I can't really govern where it goes because the line is so twisted and crooked. Oh, wow. Okay, hold up. Let me show you. Somebody knows what they're doing. I'm still learning. I'm all right. But I still ain't, I'm basically self-taught. So I'm still struggling with a lot of stuff. So I'm going to show you where I got the hook. Somebody tell me if you don't mind. So the chum thing worked for a hot second. It seems like it's still working. They still coming over in the area. I might need to throw some more chum out. So this is how I got it. I got it coming through the spine. It's a lure, by the way, so nobody has to look at a real fish, right? But it's a lure. But I got it coming through the top. Should I have it at the head? I've seen some that say I should have it at the tail. If I have it at the tail, it feels like it'll be looking like the fish is swimming backwards, which looks fake. No, I didn't catch one. This is a fake one. I had one earlier. I've had them biting, but they're not going for the hook. When I finally noticed them, I got another bulb, but it's back at the RV. This bulb slides too much, so that might be part of the problem too, is it looks like the fish and the bulb end up next to each other sometimes. But I don't know. Anybody? Any pointers? Or just keep trying. I was trying last night. I'm trying so far today. I'm gonna take Solomon out here later on. Once we finish with the podcast, or maybe while the podcast is going on, maybe we'll come back out. Just keep on going. Just keep trying. Okay, we'll keep trying. All right. Like I said, I know sometimes you just have days you ain't gonna catch nothing. And we're traveling a lot, so I don't always get a chance to see what fish like in one area. That's part of the problem, is you get used to fishing one area, and then you go to another area. Uh-oh. Okay, hold up. I see bubbling. It'll be a small cast. See if I can land it. Oh, shoot. Still went too far. Hold up. Okay. Let's see. Went where I saw all the bubbles gathered. But yeah, so where was I at before I started saying all that? I'm sorry, y'all. I was somewhere. Anyway, um, but yeah, so in all the protests and all this stuff, I just want you to realize and recognize like they're using this stuff to keep you against each other anyways. So that's what they're really doing with all this stuff. It's trying to get you and I to go against each other, to fight, to constantly, consistently tell each other why we're wrong, right? If you protest, you ain't black. If you don't protest, you ain't black. Look, if you're so-called pro-black, then be pro your status, be pro your finances, not just your money, right? Like, finance is the way that you govern your money or govern your wealth, right? We're not financially savvy. We don't look at things financially for our people. We look at things as far as like, oh, how much money did you make, or how many viewers do you have and stuff like that, rather than real, like, if I got a bunch of viewers and we look at that as wealth, and it can be, right? Virtual wealth can materialize and be manifest into, actual physical wealth, right? So if I've got 5 million, I don't, but if I had 5 million subscribers, right? If I know there are some persons that literally have 5 million subscribers and they can't do what I do and what my family does. And we make, we don't get the commercial money that they make and stuff like that, but we have certain things that we've done financially, including, hey, even if we had to get a fixer-upper that we're still fixing up in 6-7 years after being able to obtain it, so what? Like, I'd rather have a house that might have a hole in the floor and just nobody can go over to that part of the house until, a couple years ago, I learned how to do it. And then later on was able to afford to have somebody else come in and finish the stuff that I couldn't do, but at least we could walk across our house. But somebody goes, well, that's jacked up or whatever. No, like, we made sure nobody could go back there, but we have a fixer-upper. We still have a fixer-upper, when we get new stuff, we don't worry about it being new. We worry about how does it serve the needs of the community. Oh, that's what I was talking about. Thank you. Yeah, so persons don't notice, but just like when Malcolm was killed and then Fred Hampton was killed, When Malcolm X was killed, there was a guy in Africa who basically was speaking the same thing that Malcolm was speaking. And Malcolm was going to sue on behalf of, basically what's going on in North America, especially specifically in the United States of America, to go to the UN and sue for peace, right? And sue for land and sue for damages and sue for lack of reparations. And while that was going on, the guy in Africa was supposed to do the same thing. They were both killed on the same day. And yet persons don't realize and recognize that that was done on purpose. That was done because there was an agreement, right? I'm going to say something else too. Be careful about what they will allow you to do. Because in all this stuff or whatever, even if you say, well, they don't allow you because they take you, if they allow you to start marching in the streets, even if they stop it, if they allowed it to start, you got to ask, what was the purpose? Ask yourself why you're allowed to march like that against you, like anything that's against Trump is going to get us in trouble. Okay, well, you've been marching how long? They've allowed it. What's going on with this thing? Right? Like they've allowed it. That means that Trump coming through, if you think that everything, and a lot of it is, if you think that everything, a lot of you think that Trump is just some stupid, dumb, whatever, but even still, he's not in charge. And even if he is, but thinks he's in charge of, somebody makes sure that those things happen in a manner that always make him look like he's going up so that they don't lose their job. So if they'll allow you to march, you got to ask yourself why. Even if they're going to allow you to march so that they can come for you, if they will allow you to march, you got to start asking yourself, why is it allowed? Persons are saying they're trying to squash us because we're not allowed to march. No, they let you get out there. If they wanted to squash it, they would just say nobody can leave the home. They already did that before, right? They already hit little children in the face with bullets. There were rubber bullets on the inside and metal on the outside, right? We've already seen this. So they're allowing you to go out and march. You got to ask yourself, what for? What for? Why is it all of a sudden allowed? Never been allowed, but now it's allowed. Right? All of a sudden now, everybody needs to get out there and march. All of a sudden now, Republicans want you out there to march so that you can be arrested. Democrats want you to be out there so you can be black. Because really, ultimately, I'm trying to give you the game. If they're talking about Latino, they're talking about you. Let's just keep it a buck. Me Latinos, or me hermanos Latinos, right? Hermanitos, hermanitas, mis mis abuelas, mis abuelos, mis mexicanos, mis cubanos, mis puertorricanos, mis dominicanos, we're the same. That's part of the reason why you're marching, or you're in the situation now, is because they got you so separate that you got in a position to where they separated you and now treated you so poorly, and now you're like, okay, you should be our we were brothers and sisters at the beginning. Even your this is gonna sound like a cop out, but I speak like this all the time. I'm gonna be bold enough to continue to do what Holy Spirit says, and this is probably the last thing I have for today, right? We'll let you guys see a little bit of stuff before this stuff burns out. I got to make sure I keep this stuff somewhat cool so that we can use it for the podcast and come back later on and many times use it over and over again, right? But I want you to catch this, beloved. Be careful. It's like when persons talk about they want freedom and they start learning stuff, but only through the prism of their oppressor, right? Some of you were talking about we need to march now, but only through the prism of your oppressor. If you're just now saying we need to come together because you still sound like your oppressor, or you're doing what your oppressor wants you, then you're still coming together, and there's something that's not going to work out for you because your oppressor wants you to be separated, right? It's divide and conquer. It's divide and conquer. It's divide and conquer. It's not just conquer. It's divide and conquer. Uh-oh. It's divide and conquer. See? Conquistadors, divide and conquer. So the division has been there from day one. When Christianity came, what did they do? They divided you. As a matter of fact, in Christianity, whether in North America or Africa, they divided you from your belief system because you're the original ones who wrote the Bible. How are you originally write the Bible, but you're told that you aren't white enough or whatever, that you're not Eurocentric enough to be able to comprehend what you wrote? It's divide and conquer. That old serpent, the same thing. And watch this. Look for that name that supposedly is above every other name. At least that's what you were told. Look for that name, Jesus. This is really going to eat him up. But I'm gonna stick to land and I'm done. Look for that name Jesus to come up. Look for that title God to come up. If God really wanted, if Jesus really wanted, how many lives must be taken in the name of Jesus? How many lives must be lost because you keep waiting for half man, half Zeus? The same thing over and over again. So I'll leave it there. I'll see you guys on the podcast. Elder Anais gonna do her thing. We praise y'all for you. Thank you for being on with us. I'll let you guys look for a little bit. I got to get this stuff at least in the shade for a hot second, or else it's gonna overheat. I've taken it about as far as I want to risk it. So I'll let you guys. I guess I can. You can look into the sun. Why not? Thank y'all for being on. Appreciate you. We'll see you guys. Actually, looking into the sun. The sunlight will block it. All right, you can look this way. And we'll leave it up for a couple minutes. Love you all to life. We give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Amma. Remember, as always, family, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. All right. Shabbat shalom, family. Take care. Peace.